Our normal heat exchange, it's a cross-flow heat exchanger. Well, this is the core, so you have the air from the home, which is warm, comes through here. The outside air is cool coming in here. They pass through in opposite directions on either side of a membrane, and the air that's entering the home then is warmed up, and the air that's leaving is cooled off. Our cores, the capture is at 90% plus, as far as the efficiency of retaining the heat in the home.
Does that depend on the temperature differential between the interior and exterior air?
Oh, sure, as far as the outside temperature and so forth, but it's rated in their ratings based on the outside temperature, and it's, I believe, it's freezing when they do that. That measurement is for air that's freezing.
Doesn't that efficiency drop as the exterior temperature and the interior temperature get closer and closer together?
No, the efficiency would increase.
Okay.
Yeah,
so our typical outside air is like 45 around.
Yeah, your efficiencies would be very high here because you don't have as much of a range. The closer the range is, the closer the outside air is to the inside air, the more efficient it is. Another factor is the speed that you operate. And again, these ratings are at set settings, and that's an interesting thing out there in the market is you got to compare apples to apples. Yeah. Some people are making claims that they would have trouble backing up, but this is actually the Comfort 350 that we're mostly selling here right now is certified by Passive House. We actually submit the units to Passive House and they test them, and they're a pretty difficult, pretty demanding tester, right, Paul?
What does that mean, 90%? Does that mean that the air comes back in at just 10% of temperature? So if it was 70-degree air going out, it comes back in at 63 degrees, or does it mean something else? Does it have to do with joules?
No, the differential. If the air is going out, if the air inside is 70 and the air outside is 20, that's a 50-degree difference. 90% of that is made up. So it would be coming in at what's that, 4.5 degrees difference.
Okay.
So it's...
Does anything else affect efficiency, like humidity? What happens when it's raining outside, or that 100% humidity outside? Well,
they all can be factors. The other thing I was going to say is the speed of the unit. If you slow it down so that air slowly goes through, obviously, it's going to increase your efficiency. So when you're designing systems, you want the optimum is the minimum amount of airflow for your requirements in the home.
Do you have a really big room? Do you use more than one tube?
Yeah, I'll show you schemes for how to do it. It's really, you're talking about the house. You know, so think of it in terms, and one thing I really want to stress is don't think too much. We're blowing air into a house and then getting rid of the other air. Don't, you know, and it's so much better than what's been done. And I get people that are like, well, I had a guy last night, and well, what about the corner up there? Don't worry about the corner. You know, the vent was in over here, and don't worry about it. Put the air into the house, take the air out of the house, have it move through the house, but don't make yourself crazy about making it exact, because if you actually follow the flow of air, it's not going to follow where you thought it was going to go anyway. So, like I say, don't think too much on these things. One thing I'd like to mention is that we have a summer bypass, which in your market can be very effective. In the summertime, during the day, you're actually trying to keep the house cool. So the hot air is coming in, cool air is going out. The heat is going to transfer to the outgoing air, and it's going to take it outside, and the air that's coming in is going to be very close to the ambient temperature inside the house. When the sun goes down and outside gets cool, you may want to actually cool your house, and we have a summer bypass where the exterior air is coming into the house, can come straight through the box because the outgoing air is diverted around the core. Instead of going through the core here and transferring heat, that air is just directed straight out of the house. So actually that cool night air can come in and cool your house out.
Is that programmable? Temperature point?
You can just, you set it to be on and to the bypass to be active, and it will automatically, with your control, you set your room temperature that's desired as a thermostat. And then your unit will automatically bypass, if it's advantageous to bypass and bring in cool air. It'll do that. Yeah. It's not, going to be a game changer, but it's something that in certain markets, and I think in this market here where, it's hot during the day and then it's nice, it cools right off in the evening and at night, that can be an advantage and save energy as well. Difference between heat recovery ventilation and energy recovery ventilation. Do I want to cover that?
Yeah, I'm also
Okay.
confused about
Heat recovery ventilation is your membranes are a solid material, either plastic or aluminum, and impermeable. So the air that's flowing through the channels this way and the air that's flowing through the channels this way, there's no interaction between those except the heat transfer through that membrane or that plate. With energy recovery ventilation, ERV, that membrane actually is permeable to moisture, gas. And if you have cold, dry air coming in that with not a lot of moisture and warm, damp air going out, moisture will transfer through that membrane and then come back in. So in the wintertime in Maine, where I am, we want to keep the moisture in the house because we're running at 30% relative humidity on winter days in Maine. It's bitterly cold, it's dry, and you don't want your house to be dry. So that moist air, I have plants, and you do those things that try to put moisture into the air in the house. That air that's leaving, some of it's transferred with an ERV into the incoming air, and so you're not losing all of the moisture out of the house. I don't think it's that big an issue. I have an HRV in Maine rather than an ERV in my system, and I haven't noticed that it's that dramatic. But some people in some markets, and the ERV definitely is an important factor. Okay? We have this discussion, and people say, well, what's better? And I could put the 10 top ventilation experts in the country in a room, and 5 would say one thing and 5 would say the other. So.
Well, around here we generally have too much humidity inside.
Yeah, so an HRV is going to get rid of some of the inside humidity.